right, is everybody's getting logged on, Dave? We'll give them just a 15 or 20 seconds here and we'll get started, but we'll let everybody, our participants are funneling in.
They're logging on right now? You didn't tell me I was going to be live, Miles.
Yep. I see them as they, yep. There's we can watch them come in.
It probably wouldn't have made any difference, though, would it have? Whether it's live or we're just talking to ourselves.
Yeah. Do you still have your headphones in?
Me?
All right. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I got them in. I couldn't hear you if I didn't have them in.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll get started. Awesome. So, Dave, we'll go ahead and get started here this evening. Those of you that are joining us and still funnel in, we sure appreciate.
Hey, before you get started, this is truly my first webinar.
Well, good. We'll
so you'll have to guide me as we go along.
Hopefully you can make, hopefully you can make more in-person visits than we have to do these webinars. But as it's Dave's first one, it's not my first. We've been having these stock show classrooms for 4 weeks now, 4 or 5 weeks, and it is definitely something that has been an absolute hit. And I know that many of you that have logged on tonight have been involved in many of these talks, demonstrations, all the webinars that we've put on so far in our stock show classroom setting. And so we're very appreciative of that you've been a part of it. If it's your first time, I think you'll find not only will you find just awesome things that we can talk about through the industry. We do talk about feeds and supplements and some of these, but you get a little humor out of it as well. So it seems like some of them that we've done, we get some screenshots of all of us and funny faces that might pause on. So
are you going to tell a joke?
Smiling face so that they, yeah. So we do sure appreciate you guys, and we appreciate everybody getting on and being here with us this evening. If you haven't had the opportunity to log in before and you'd like to go back and listen to any of these webinars in the Stock Show Classroom, you can do that by going to Show-Rite.com. You can find the link on there, and that'll send you to any of the species that you'd like to talk about as well or listen to as well. And it will also broadcast tonight and then the future ones that we have as well. You can also go to our Facebook page and find those links. They're somewhere in there, or you can just simply ask a question there in the messenger box, and we'll be able to help you out find those links if you're having some trouble. So we do these multi-species. So if you're just logging on tonight for the first time and you say, hey, I have pigs and goats and sheep, and I'd like to know more about those as well and what you folks do. We don't just talk about Show-Rite products in every one of those. We talk about general care and management and showmanship tips and picking animals out and things like that. And so we just had the unique opportunity tonight to be with Dave Geyer and to be able to talk about our supplement program and how it's helped Dave and his family and how they utilize it and how we promote this throughout the country. And these particular supplements / additives is what we talk about tonight. And so with that, I'll introduce our special guest, Dave Geyer. I know many of you that have logged on may have logged on just to listen to him again talk. He's been on here a few times so far on his Facebook Live, and he likes to do that simply because he couldn't get his camera to work on the loop up or whatever we're on tonight. But he's got it to work, and he's excited for his first webinar. But Dave and his family obviously are very successful in terms of multi-species across the nation, competitive, and Dave is very largely involved and invested into the cattle business and one of the good cattlemen. And we're very, very appreciative to have Dave not only as a friend, but someone that we work with every single day in Show-Rite and trying to make things better our products and just how they're used. And so he's our go-to guy whenever we start to talk about cattle supplements and cattle feed. So we're happy to have Dave on here tonight. So to just get started, I always go through here and talk just a little bit about basically our business and what we do. Show-Rite's a nationwide show feed. We go coast to coast, and anywhere that you could possibly want Show-Rite, we usually have the opportunity to get it to you. And that's what's neat. And Show-Rite is a continually growing brand that is, we like to think, very nationally respected, just simply based on the opportunity that you have to get in hold and in touch with us as far as feed folks, as far as your national support specialist and helping you better your project, and then also having a very functional, very easy to feed kind of feed. And so we're appreciative of that. And so with that, there's a company called Alltech. Alltech owns Show-Rite, and Alltech would be our mother company, if you want to call it that. And Alltech really made Show-Rite a true show feed. It made us have an added value feed, and where we're so much different than the competitor. And we don't talk a lot about that, but we do love the Alltech products that we utilize in each one of our additives and each one of our feeds, and how they really start to help. You can see in these bullets: maximizing nutrient utilization, maintaining digestive function. So we're talking about gut health and enzyme activity, providing a great mineral nutrition, for just as far as you talk about your entire feeding of the project. You can see just other big words and big statements there. And what it truly should mean to you is just the fact that we've put a lot of time and a lot of effort in generating a very, very unique show feed and additive program for you to try to be successful with at home. We care about joints, we care about we care about intake and eating and health and immune systems of your animals. And so with that, we've really started to be able to utilize Alltech in those ways. So like I said, tonight is going to be talking about cattle supplements. And we do just, Dave and I got to talking, and we said, you know, what do we want to do? How do we want to talk about these supplements? Because we could sit here and bore you the whole time and just simply go supplement to supplement and say, this is what it does, this is how much you need to feed of it. And outside of that, you get bored. There's also things that come along with supplements, and it's a part of your project. You know, we talk in many of these webinars so far that you have to have a goal in mind. You have to know where you want to show, and you have to try to accommodate that animal and perfect that animal for that particular show. Well, the additive portion of the game is no different. This is a very where it seems like they're simple products, and it seems like it's simple, and it is to feed, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. It's one of those things that you want to make sure that you have a good grasp on, so you're not overfeeding something, or so that you're not feeding something that truly you don't need to be spending money on right now. That your project is cared for every day. We care about that, and we can talk about supplements. And so as you go through the bulletins, you know, one of the big things that we talked about is, and I always say, in each one of these, I not only have done many of these webinars, but just like Dave, have traveled the country doing clinics. And one of the big things that we always talk about at home, or whenever I'm in a webinar, or whenever I'm there in a classroom setting, is just because your neighbor is doesn't mean you need to. And hopefully that will sink in just a little bit, and to some of you may not even make any sense. But what I mean by that, and what we'll talk about here as we go through, is just because maybe your neighbor is feeding a supplement to add muscle or add body or add more condition or whatever it may be, doesn't mean that your calf needs that. Your calf is probably completely different than Bobby, your neighbor's. And so we're going to try to feed them accordingly and feed them appropriately to what they actually need, and try to maintain them that way. Understanding your project's faults, and I think that Dave would probably go along with this as we go through. This is one of the most critical things, in my opinion, and I'm sure Dave's as well, to be successful. if you want to have a successful show project, every one of us can go in and we can see the good. None of us want to ever say that our animals are bad. In fact, I'll tell you just a quick, brief deal, and I know Dave's the same way as well. We like going to shows because his kids enjoy it, his family enjoys it. I like helping folks that I sell animals to, but I don't like putting the animal in the ring and having it criticized because I already know that animal's faults, and we try to work for those faults every single day. And so with that, we believe that everybody always wants to know tips, Dave, don't they? And they want to know secrets, and they want to know what's the next big thing to really amp up my project and make it look better. This right here, understanding their faults, is one of those secrets to the good feeders and the good homes that win a lot of stuff. Don't switch supplements constantly. I get a lot of calls and they say, well, I've got them on that 12 pounds of feed or throttled up or whatever it may be. I got my steer on 12 pounds of throttled up, like you said, per feeding, but I've also got him on this additive and this one and this one and this one and this one. And I'm not so sure if it's doing anything, but that's just what I read, or that's what I was told to do. So that's what I'm doing. And it seems like I need to do it if I want to get ahead of the competition. There's times, I told you whenever we just got started here, there's times for supplements, there's times for not, and there's times that you just absolutely don't need them. And there's times that you absolutely do. And I would say that if Todd Kennedy was on here and the bosses, Dave of Show-Rite, for me to sit and say that you don't need a supplement sometimes, they'd say, boy, you can't say that because we're in a business to sell feed and sell supplements. But Dave and I are trying to be honest with you and trying to get your project fed honestly as well. And the big thing as well, one of the big tips, one of the big trades is keep it simple. So as we go through these, Dave's going to go ahead and he'll talk
I'd like
as
to just
well.
add,
and so as I go through this, go ahead.
I just want to add something here to what Miles said, and before we move on to this other slide, that first one right there that he talks about, you don't have to do what your neighbor does. We play our own. We always say around our place, we play our own tune, we sing our own song, and that's what you got to do. You don't have to do what the next guy does. The next thing that Miles talked about was finding the faults. If you want to come to my house and see an argument, it's usually the days that I come home and we get pigs out in the yard or cattle out in the yard or whatever the case is, and I'm looking over things, and my girls and my wife will tell me every time, why are you so negative? And I tell them the same thing every time. We don't need to fix the good things. We need to recognize the bad things or the faults so that we can help fix them. So a lot of times they always call me Negative Nancy around my house when I come around. And then the last point that he made there that I totally agree with is don't switch everything around. You don't need a chemist lab to feed an animal nowadays. So, and I know there's lots of them out there that do that. And truthfully, if you take nothing away from what we got today or tonight, this right here, this screen might teach you more than anything that you're going to hear tonight. So anyway, I'll let you continue on, Miles.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate it. And Dave's 2 cents means a lot to us, and hopefully it does you folks as well. But we don't mean this directly towards anybody that's listening, and we darn sure don't mean it to do any harm or to sound arrogant or anything like that. We're just simply trying to tell you things that we have learned throughout the years of experience. Particularly Dave, as you can see, hopefully you can see Dave's way older than I am via the video screen, but this is something that we believe is a routine. This is the everydays, and this is something that you really need to think about. Should I start now? And I could have put this on the last slide, but I truly believe that this is probably one of the most frequently asked questions that myself, the Show-Rite crew, Dave, and a lot of folks get is, should I start now? I realize Dave does, and you folks that are on here, you're going to start, or you have a calf now that you're going to start wanting to transition into different things. And they're at a totally different time period. Whenever you get off the supplements and you get off the additives that worked for you in July and August like we said they would, that doesn't mean that whenever you get that next calf home in September, that you just automatically have to start onto those particular supplements again. So really it's about knowing your calf. And if you don't know them and if you're uncertain, that's where Dave and I and our crew comes into play. You send us a picture, video. You know, we have our phone numbers. We'll give them out here at the end. And you're more than welcome anytime to send Dave or I a picture of your calf and say, hey, I was on the Show-Rite webinar and just really would like your input on what I need to do next with this. And we'll talk about weights and we'll talk about your end goal, but it's the should I start now. There's a difference in right now and your calf being 1,100 pounds and that calf coming in at 400 or 500 pounds this fall. So the should I start now, you'll get into this. Whenever we get into these supplements, you'll understand. But here's a big point. Let them be a growing calf and add it when it's needed. Whenever you get into this fall, it's okay to let a calf be a calf. Am I right or wrong, Dave? I mean, if you're feeding, just like you said earlier, it's something that is the big tip, the big secret is we don't have to make a chemist lab. We don't have to have all these 15 different additives to make these things look good. Sometimes it just takes a little feed and elbow grease. And what we're talking about tonight is just let them be a calf. We're going to talk about the supplements and how they're going to help you. Feed the right stuff to the right stuff. Talked about that in the last slide. You need to know your animal and know what it needs to be fed as far as these supplements go. And then feeding different frame size, muscle, and condition. That's a point that we make ourselves whenever we come to help you. Whenever you send that video or you send that picture, we can help you determine what you need based on those particular factors. Anything you'd like to add here, Dave?
No, I mean, you're exactly right. The bottom line of it is when we get those cattle in the fall is just let them be a calf. And I can't express enough times that I have said that over the years when people buy calves and they say, what do we do? And I just say, hey, let him be a calf. Let him just go out there and eat and be a calf and let him decide or her decide, what needs to be done. So yeah, you're exactly right.
Absolutely.
Just let that calf go and be a calf.
But on that note, you would also agree with me that there is a need for for supplements and there is a need for these things that we have to put muscle and body and all these things. And we're going to get into those here in just a second. So one of the very first ones that we like to talk about is Relaxlyx. Okay. And I know that some of it's paused. If you do have any questions, I did forget to put that up there. Excuse me. There's a Q&A section. And go on there and ask questions, man. And I know that you may not want, maybe 10 of your buddies are on there from your county and whatever, and you don't want them to see. You can text us or send a message through Show-Rite on the Ask the Experts page, or you can send it via the Facebook or anything like that. But if you have a question, please ask us. That's what we're here for, and that's what we want to do, and that helps us go along here, and it helps us to kind of gauge where we're at as well, any of these things that you may have a question on. So first one I want to talk about is Relaxlyx, because I believe it's one of the very first things. Outside of getting them in a nice pen and putting fresh feed in front of them, fresh water, I like having Relaxlyx in a pen. And I tell everybody, anybody that shows calves that we sell, or anybody that we sell feed to, across the country, I promote Relaxlyx tubs, not because it's just the Show-Rite brand. It's because I truly believe there's a benefit in it. You can see there, I have some differences in the way that they may consume this, but the big things that you need to know about is that this is going to help generate a higher intake. There's electrolytes in here. There's something called Tasco. It's going to help internally to drop the internal body temperature, and it'll help grow hair. We have Tasco in our feeds as well. And so we have that in our Relaxlyx tubs, and you have high levels of vitamins and trace minerals. What does that mean to you? This is going to keep your calf going. This is no different than the kid or mom or dad waking up in the morning, taking your vitamins and just feeling better throughout the day. That's what Relaxlyx is about. We believe that they need to be in every single pen, every run that your calf is in. You can take them to shows. This is a 40-pound tub with a lid on it. Take them to shows. And I, more times than not, I have seen folks that come to me at a show and say, hey, my calf just won't eat. If there's a Relaxlyx tub handy, if we've got like at the Illinois Beef Expo, we have a booth set up and usually have 5 or 6 of these tubs. And so many times those calves get out for the first time in February. We send them back with a Relaxlyx tub, and it's unbelievable the differences that they'll come back with. So that's our tub. And we really do think that each one of these calves needs to be put on that. Like I said, their very first bulletin, they all need one. So as we get into it, yeah, go ahead.
Aaron asked a question on there about what was Tasco. Oh. Tasco is basically a blend of kelp and seaweed meals, and you can add to this, Miles, kelp and seaweed meals that are very good for the skin and hair, and lowers their body temperature down in the hot weather months. So when he said it helps grow hair, what it does is reduces their body temperature to the point to where that would help you in the hair growth process. So it's mainly a blend of kelp and seaweed meals.
Absolutely, to help continue to just drop that internal body temp. And so,
yep.
Is it one tub of Relaxlyx per calf? We have 4 in one area. No, we do talk about, these younger calves that you could put a couple of them on it. Dave would also probably be able to tell you, in any of those situations, as you utilize a tub out there, you can have a calf or 2 on it. It's just something that we like to make sure that it's in front of them. If you've got 2 calves licking on it and it goes faster, then you got to keep more around, but we do try to at least make sure those calves do have a tub. You don't want to have 4 calves in one pen and probably 4 tubs. Just put you a tub or 2 out there, let them lick on it, and hey, whenever it's gone, put another tub or 2 out there. So just keep it out there and in front of them.
And we start that as soon as we get them in the fall.
Yep. Wyatt asked, are these comparable to what is called extreme pellets in the summer? And Wyatt, I'll tell you, I'm honestly, I don't know what those extreme pellets are. I've heard of them. This is just what we utilize in specific at our place and across, like I said, the country of calves that we sell and what I promote, because we just believe that it works very well. So we don't try to maybe feed extra of any of those types of pellets or anything. If we can have a tub out there, it's just something different for them to be able to go to instead of trying to consume, eat, and put back down in their body. Seems like they like licking on it. The next one, as we get into it, we get lots of questions, and particularly right now, I know what some of you folks are maybe starting to see is a difference in where your calf is at from a body standpoint, depth of body, spring of their body, and just the way it sets in comparison to their chest floor. And a lot of it just has to do, and we talked in a section last week that Dave wasn't there for that one. Tyler Melro and I talked these additives we have to really help expedite this process. A lot of times it is genetics, but we're going to talk about how we can help you to expedite this process with a couple products that we have right here for rib and body. Right fiber is one of them. If you're wanting to add depth to their body. So as you look at the top of them, their top line, and you go down to their belly, to the midsection of their belly, that's depth of body, okay? Spring to their body, we've got a product for it, and Dave's going to talk about it here in just a second. But Right Fiber is a newer product to our lineup that's absolutely unbelievable in terms of flying right off the shelves. I mean, it's something that these cattle are eating, they enjoy, they love it. And we're utilizing it even for cattle to get back on feed. If we're pushing a bunch of corn and those kinds of things, and we get that call, hey, our calf's off feed, we put them on a little Right Fiber, and it just seems like they like it so much. I get a lot of questions. Well, why do they like it so much? I'm not sure, but we make this pellet with corn cob. And I do know as we've continued the process, and, Dave could tell you way more additives that have been out there for cattle across the country for many, many years. But one of these very new and very popular and something to stay is corn cob. And we have utilized this cob in Right Fiber. And what we're doing is trying to drop that in their body and let it sit in their lower body. They don't burn and make an energy from corn cob, so they don't get any fatter. It just helps them put depth of their body on. And so that's why we really like it. We're utilizing it so much in these heifers to put the big sweepy bellies in them and drop their rib. Like I said, we're going to talk about expanding the rib here in just a minute and helping drop it. But this is to really drop their rib. The next one is to hold their weight, hold weight on steers. Some of you might be getting into a situation right now thinking, hey, my state fair is the second week of August and this calf's weighing 1,200 pounds darn near right now. What do I need to do? Well, Dave, like we always say, we get them fat and we get them hairy, but this is something that as we've got the fat on them and now we just need to hold the weight on that calf and hold that maturity and that condition line. This is what we're going to try to utilize along with our feed to do so. It's going to help you hold that condition, like I said, on heifers, as you're wanting to, if you've got them right and you've got the right kind of condition on them, it's going to help keep that condition, and it's going to help to continue to add body and add that depth of rib and rear rib and flank that we're trying to look for. What's unique about Right Fiber is it's built like a preconditioner. It's built utilizing extra vitamins, extra minerals, our TRT program, those things to be able to utilize in a setting where if you didn't have or you were not able to feed very much feed or limited feed or no feed at all because the calf has gotten out of hand, this can still be fed to try to hold that weight, but it has the right amount of vitamins and minerals to continue that calf's inside working right. So basically, it's continuing to oil up the inside as they're eating. And David, anything, if you ever want to add anything as we go through here, please do. But hopefully that helps to understand the Right Fiber and what we're trying to do with it as we go through.
A lot of times Miles is on the. He's way more tongue-tied there. He's way smarter in the makeup of that purple bag that you see right there, and I'm more concentrate more just like on the real world stuff and what it does. And so I can't tell you about all the makeup, but most of you that are listening here are probably not old enough. But if you ever had grandpa or somebody, one of your old mentors that used to have the old corn crib and they used to make feed with the old corn cobs and all that and grind feed, that was some awesome feed. And that would be where Right Fiber comes in here with that corn cob in there. And that's some really good feed, and it does all the things that Miles is telling you, and they will eat it because of the corn cob. It gets their rumen going good. Very, very, very good product here that can be used in all the ways that he just explained. So very good.
We'll get asked a lot, Dave, and I'm going to go into a couple questions here in just a second, but we'll get asked quite a bit. How much of what product do we feed? As we go along through here, we'll have some suggestions to maybe start them on, but I think that Dave will agree as well. It has a lot to do with what your calf looks like and how much we can feed. There's times where you need to feed minimal, times where you can feed maximum, and there's everything in between. And so we enjoy the Right Fiber newer product for us. Product that's going to continue to add body and keep that chest off of them, keep condition right. That's to drop their body. That's giving them the depth of the rib. But now you want to think about those judges have talked about volume. They've talked about spread, dimension, expansion of rib, and rib shape. We've got a product that works very well as we start to talk about that. I told you Right Fiber goes from here down the midsection of their body. You can see this heifer's got a big round turn to a rib cage. If you were to get behind her, you'd see that rib and spread. And how can we maximize that potential? Dave, if you would, tell us about stretch.
Stretch is another product that we promote very hard, and it's one of those expansion products, and everybody's got an expansion product, or all companies have an expansion product. That we feel this is the best expansion product to add dimension within your calf. It will. When we say add dimension, and if you want to try it at home, a lot of times they put it in a cup and they say, boy, you put some water in there and it expands out. Well, that's fine. So does beet pulp, but beet pulp doesn't do us any good, to be honest with you. All it does is add some chest to them, but it doesn't do expansion. Stretch is a product that if you put 1 scoop of stretch in your feeding program per feeding, or 2, or whatever you're doing, it just depends upon, like Miles said, your calf and what you're trying to do, heifer, steer, whatever. If you put a scoop of stretch, which is kind of a normal, a 2 scoop stretch per feeding would be a pretty high rate. But if you put a scoop of stretch into a feeding, that would mount to 3 scoops of volume, because it expands that much with water, obviously. So it's a very good product in that regards. It's very good for these females. And I know that we've got customers, and I know one in particular that I went to his house, and I said, hey, I said, something's not right. I said, we're losing ground here. We got to pick up the pace and start feeding her again. And he's like, well, he goes, I got to admit, we ran out of that stretch product 5 days ago, and lo and behold, we got it right back on her, and it filled her back out. But I want to precaution you, whether it's right fiber, whether it's stretch, or whatever you're using, you always got to make sure you have your calf in condition before you start doing things like this. When we get calls in the fall of saying, hey, he or she needs more body, and they start feeding this kind of a product, next thing you know, you're not feeding the animal, and you've lost condition, or if you haven't went backwards, you don't get the condition that you're expecting to get. And so there comes a point in time that you have to purchase that belly and rib and then expand from it from there, whether it be right fiber, stretch, or what have you. So you got to feed your calf, he or she, what she needs. But this is a very good expansion product, the best expansion product that we believe in very, very highly here at this place.
I believe that somebody maybe is asking our questions for us, but yes, it is, Wyatt. It is something that can be used multi-species, as you see on the front of the bag there. He asked about sheep, Dave. Obviously, Dave is starting to show some sheep with his family. I'm sure has utilized it, and I know that Cooper and those folks do as well. Yeah. I put the arrows down here, and that just my little expansion arrows is what that is, and so. We're going east and west with right fiber. We're going south with stretch. We're going east and west. And I put Dave. I hope you don't mind it. This is a product that Dave really, really likes to feed. And I mean, it's something that the reason he likes it is the fact of what he talked about just a little bit ago in a beet pulp, and how that can add chest. There's so many sugars in that particular product, and hey, it's a cheap fill product, and everybody talks about utilizing it. But whenever you get down to the nitty gritty and you talk about the most successful families in this country and getting those things tidied up front, continuing to put big bellies in them, I promise you they're on a stretch product there, or on this stretch product. And it's one of those that's not going to add that extra chest. And I put on there, Dave, and again, I hope you don't mind, it doesn't take much. And I like that Dave said it's if you go 2 scoops, you're probably a little too much. And some of them maybe need 2 scoops, but I've always found stretch to work so rapidly that we get all the time, what is your expansion product and how does it work? Like this product, and this product. This bag right here will eliminate at least 2 or 3 competitive bags that you may feed daily to try to get what stretch will do. And that's what I like about stretch. I like scooping out of this bag because I know it works, because Dave just told you, it works so fast that you can tell if they're on it or if they're not. And I remember Dave telling that story many times in these clinics, but you darn sure can.
I
So
will,
as we get into
I'm going to say one
oh,
more
sorry.
thing there, Miles, on stretch is on a product like this, you're going to go and you're going to buy a bag of beet pulp and it's going to cost you X, and you're going to buy a bag of stretch and it's going to cost you X times 2. Just remember, something like this is times 3. It's going to do 3 times what any other expansion product is going to do out there. So always remember that. You just don't, like he put on here, don't take much. It don't take much. You're going to have to feed a whole bag of some of the other stuff. So when you start looking at costs and stuff like that on that and comparing, very good product. Go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, we sell a lot of stretch. The important things that we like to talk about as well, muscle and protein, and just, you know, how that we'll talk about these products. We'll get in here in just a second, but it is something that, you know, we do talk more about some muscle and dimension and trying to get a little bit more of that. It used to be a curse word in these females, but you know, we're not trying to lay in a tremendous amount of terminal muscle, but we're trying to maybe get them a little bit more expanded top lines and just a little bit more pop than what we've had maybe in previous years to really set these things apart. As we've talked about body and rib, and we've talked about the products that we have that can help do that, we don't necessarily need 4 or 5 other products to do that. We love our 2 products we've got, and I know the cattle feeders that utilize Show-Rite do as well. We've got a few products to really add that extra as we get into these. So muscle in motion is something that Dave, introduced to Dave there, and he's been using for a while, and we're using multi-species, and Dave's going to tell you about these cattle and how it's helped them and what it can help you do. But I listen closely. Muscle in Motion is a unique product that I honestly, as many animals as we feed, as Dave feeds, there's nothing like this particular product out there on the market. And so Dave, if you would, tell them a little bit about Muscle in Motion.
Well, Muscle in Motion, we refer to it as M&M, is something that in all reality, I've always said from, you know, and this is a personal feeling, when we see that name Muscle in Motion, you know, somebody thinks, oh boy, you know, I don't know that I want to do that. I don't know if I want to put muscle on one. What is it? What's in it that makes muscle? And if they do muscle up, you know, are you going to tighten them up? There's all those questions that come along with that. And I've always been a little critical of that name, because this product right here is a very, very, very good product. Whether you know, at our place, whether it's on the cattle side or whether it's on the hog side, we use a lot of it. It is very good. You know, when you start talking about filling one in behind their shoulders, and people always talk about, well, you know, on that heifer, boy, she gives behind her shoulders, or that steer, you know, those are places where you want to fill those things in. It just lays on that nice fat. I call it bloom. You know, you want to think, whenever you talk about muscle, you don't want to think that, or you kind of shy away from it, of something that puts on muscle. You kind of think, well, it's not going to put on bloom. Well, this right here probably puts on more bloom than anything. And when you put bloom on one, that fills in, starts filling in ham loin junctions, right in their loin, behind their shoulder, their forerib, those kind of things. You know, start putting some fat cover on there. So I think it's a great product for bloom. I think it's unbelievable product for you people that are in the South that are listening, because if you're from the South and you got a slick shear, M&M is something that I feel like that it is a must in your barn. That product right there, along with another product we're going to talk about here later on, are 2 must products in a slick shear program. But very, very good product. Really fills them in, puts bloom on your animal. I'm a big fan of this one.
Awesome. And we had a couple questions, and I will, I believe maybe Maury is going through and probably answering these questions for us as we go. But I do want to just get through here and just probably bring up, appreciate that, Tara. Tara says M&M's worked wonders on our steers.
Yeah.
This is a product that is multi-species. I know we're talking about cattle tonight, but there was a question there I think Carrie had asked just a little bit ago. Do you mix with the regular feed we feed now? Yes, Dylan, we do. We do feed this. I mean, there's folks that will start on this as their calves are getting ready. How long do we get this question? How long do we feed Muscle in Motion? I like to have them on it for a solid 30 days. Pretty much any cattle product that you'd ask me about, I'm sure Dave as well. 30 days. You know, sheep, goats, pigs, you can really tell a difference pretty quick. Outside of a product like Stretch that works so fast to expand them, there's these products and these cattle, they're rumens, they function differently. And so it takes a little bit more time to really see an incredible result. But I would tell you that you'd see a difference 10, 12 days, but have them on it for at least 30 days. If that, 1 to 2 pounds per feeding is the norm, and more is not always better. So the big thing is just allowing us to see your animal that you're going to feed it to. If you don't have the opportunity to send that to us, just know we like to be at about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds per feeding. Why we call it Muscle in Motion is it also has things in there that will help their structure. This is not something that you're going to utilize to fix any structural problems as you add muscle in there. But this is something that if that calf has those joints that maybe are a little more restricted, but you still need to add muscle, we use this way. If you have that calf that's green and skinny, Dave talked about blooming their top line, getting them better behind their shoulder. Muscle in Motion is going to help you from that standpoint. Those heifers, those steers that'll pinch right in behind their shoulder, hey, this is something that'll help them. I actually meant to put strength in top line. I misspelled it on the bottom. But those heifers and steers that maybe get a little sway back, a little long, I like to use Muscle in Motion.
I want to add to what Miles is saying there, and a lot of stuff that he's saying, everything he's saying is correct. And we talk about muscle and it adds muscle. A lot of times you add width, that is muscle. Okay, so what I'm saying is when you add bloom and you add and they fill out in their top lines and they look wider, is that muscle or is that bloom? And quite frankly, in what we do and what the world we live in, who cares? It's width, it's dimension. That's what we like the most, So in all reality, that's what this product right here does. It appears to give you that bloom, that filling out area to make you look smooth down your top line and behind your shoulders and so forth.
So, and this is the area we're talking about, right in behind their shoulder and the extra expansion to their top. You're not going to see, like as Dave just talked about, that hard muscle shape. We'll get into a product here in just a second that will turn a hard muscle shape, but you're going to see way more bloom and expansion behind their shoulder and down their top line than what you've seen before. And so unique product that doesn't affect the feet and legs, and we love to use it. We have some questions there. How much does one typically feed for M&M? We do feed, like I said, about 1 pound to 2 pounds per feeding. We have someone had asked a question, my steer needs to be filled out more in his flank. What would be a good supplement that I should use for him? I just had a question today from someone, and I get a lot of questions, and I'm sure Dave, you do as well right now, talking about the flank area. How do I fill out the flank? And I've talked so much about these and in supplements, and what we're utilizing to promote that particular area is a stretch and a right fiber, and utilizing that appropriately. So to answer that question on how do we get some flank back there, and the other thing is, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. It's just time and maturity. Yeah. Cattle will start to deepen in their chest. They'll get a little bit more fat up front because they fatten towards the front end of their body first, and then they fatten towards the rear end of their body after that. They fatten in an upside down V. They go this way towards their chest, this way towards their rear end. And so from that standpoint, we get so many questions right now. How do we balance that back out? And those are two products that we utilize to do that.
I'd like to add to that.
Factor is a, oh, sorry.
No. There's a little delay here. So if anybody knows, there's just a little delay. So I'd like to add to that. When he talks about that flank and that kind of stuff, guys, pay attention at your selection time. I'm a big one to always go back to selection. Go back to selection time. And when you're selecting your animals and you think one needs to be a little softer, center bodied, you may fight that all year long. There's no feed, there's no magic potion, there's no magic supplement, there's nothing. I don't care what it is to fix some things that were caused at selection. Don't get yourself in the bind. Make selection that important. Make selection when you're selecting them. You're not going to buy a perfect one. Don't get me wrong. But don't buy them that have problems that you can't fix or you can't help or enhance as time goes on. So I just want to refer you back to that selection process. And and when someone says, "Boy, I got one that's high flanked," you know what? Probably he was that way the day you bought him. You just needed to buy one with a little softer center. And I'm not being disrespectful. I want you to refer back to what they were like as babies, and pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Yep. But as you do, and if you got them right now, like we talked about, and two of them that we feed regularly is that Right Fiber and Stretch. And so, let's see here. How much does one typically give per feeding? Patricia, we give that pound to 2 pounds per feeding on the Muscle in Motion. It will just depend, but many of them will be on at least 1 pound per feeding. So we talk about Right Factor, and there's 2 things that are going to help increase a harder muscle shape, and those that have slick steers, those that have a calf that just needs it and needs it rapidly. This is the only product on the market, and we can assure of this time and time again, that's utilized to change the prioritization of nutrients and how they're utilized. This is a product that was not just created by some goofy guy like Dave or I, some hillbillies from Southern Illinois. This was created by a very, very intelligent person that had an idea of what was supposed to happen and made it happen. This more rapidly expedites what you're trying to do. You need to help put fat on. You need to help expedite the muscle process. These are things that help. There's also gut health things in there. There's things that's going to continue to help rumen function. It's a very unique product. We don't have a lot of folks that feed it, and I don't know why. I mean, it's a product that I truly believe in, and it's not something that we have to feed all year long. It's something that's a last 30 days, really get that extra bloom, that extra pop. And I used to call it like filling the center of a Fruit Loop. It's filling that extra gap that you need. You got the Fruit Loop. Everything looks good, but you'd like to just fill it up just a little bit more. That's what Right Factor is going to do.
Kind of like a jelly donut
per day. Doesn't take very much. There you go. Like a jelly donut. It's going to fill it up. I've been trying to shut off on the donuts, so I don't need any more. Our Starshine product seems to have lost its
shine.
Enhanced talk. Yeah, the things to talk about. But another product that we talk about in terms of a muscle, a bloom, something to help honestly any animal that we're feeding at this particular point, just get that little extra, good for hide, those types of things, and a really unique product. And guys, we're going through some of these things.
There it is.
I know that some of it's maybe fast. And right. Yep. No, I know it's on there, but the things aren't popping. The little bulletins aren't popping up with it. But this is something where in some of these products, or whenever I talk, Dave and I go through these products, yes, some take a little longer, some take a little faster, whatever it may be. But the thing that you need to know is you can go to our Show-Rite website and see YouTube videos on each one of these products and us talking about them and how they're utilized. So if you don't get something wrote down, go to Show-Rite.com, go to that particular product, read what's there for the outline product, and also be able to see some of these YouTube videos that we've put together. We took us a couple days and had a professional filming crew. So you have to go on there so that we can say that every penny that we put into those couple days, Dave, it was worth it. So get on there whenever you have the opportunity to. Sculpt. I love Sculpt. Sculpt is a product that, again, is multi-species, but whenever you're talking about your cattle right now and you're talking about boy, I had that calf that is just, he was slick fronted and she was really neat necked and she had, you know, no chest. And now all of a sudden we're getting into this, they're weighing 900, 1,000, over 1,000 pounds. And they're maybe starting to get a little bit of this extra bloom to their front end that we really don't want, but we want to continue to put the flank on and those types of things and keep that extra condition from their shoulder back. This is a very unique product to be able to do that. We're utilizing things. This is going to burn down their front end. Okay. So whenever I get into this particular picture here, I'm talking about right here, their throat line down through their chest. This is going to help this area stay clean. Now, Dave talked about selection earlier, and he talked about flanks. And, you know, don't buy one whose flank setting way up here and think that it's going to be so easy just to get it to drop. Some of you have every tip, trick, and trade, and you say, hey, I know how to get that area better, so I don't need to know that advice, Dave. But there's many of you on here that would like that advice. I know you do. I'm the same way. I need to listen to that because we're fixing to buy some steers. But this is something, our Sculpt product is going to really burn this area off. It's going to help to get this area fresher, cleaner, more feminine, if you'd like to talk about that, in these heifers, and really keep that fresh front end in these steers. I'm not telling you that if your calf was bought in the fall and it had some neck and chest and we continued to feed it not as appropriately as we needed to and added corn and added those things, and now their chest is even bigger and goggier and goofier looking, that's just going to recorrect every step that you make. This is a product that will help burn that down. It will help peel it down, and you're going to see a big difference. But this is also a product that's going to help you from day to day to never have that issue. There's things in here. The way that Sculpt is made and built is unlike any of the other products that you've utilized so far to get those areas to burn down. Now, some will tell you that it is similar to one or two products. I can assure you the reasoning behind the fact that it's different is the Alltech products that we've utilized in Sculpt to make that more unique. They don't have those opportunities. And so we're talking about utilizing an additive that so rapidly burns down their front end, but it focuses on their front end, not the rear part of their body. Some of those additives that you're utilizing now will burn that belly out. It'll burn their flank out. This Sculpt will not do that. In fact, it helps a little more protein. It helps a little more bloom, and it also peels down their front end. And I promise you, use this right here for 10, 12 days, and you will see a difference. But if you have it 30 to 45 days, unbelievable difference. So we got some questions here. You know, as far as the questions that we have, one of them here, can you give your steer M&M and Sculpt together? Absolutely. Now, I'm telling you, like I said earlier, and like Dave says, you don't have to make this rocket science, but there is times where you're trying to burn down their front end and get some muscle shape. Okay, Sculpt starts with an S, muscle shape. Okay, that's the way that I always think about it. And we're using M&M to make their top wider. We're using Sculpt to turn and get muscle in their top, but also burn that front end off as we're doing that because it's some added protein. So yeah, Marissa, thanks for the question. You can use M&M and Sculpt together, absolutely. How much Sculpt do you use? I get that question quite a bit, and most of the time we're at about a half to 3/4 of a cup or a pound per feeding. Some go up to 1.5 pounds. Some have been a little more and some have been less, and say, hey, it all works. But I would have you at about 3/4 of a pound or a pound. Now I have a bucket on here. This comes in a bag, so don't be scared thinking, well, my calf is big and he's going to have to take that. You know, I get that because in multiple species or other species, we use a lot less of it, but we do have a bag and it is going to help you out tremendously. Cost per day on that, per head, per feeding, unbelievable difference in what you're going to spend on utilizing Sculpt than what you will the extra products. When do you start feeding Sculpt, Stacy? Appreciate that comment. Sculpt is a deal that you know, some will start early, some will start it, and I say early, some will start it in October. Some will turn around and try to start a Sculpt in you know, a July or August, and that's fine too. 20, 30 days right there before, right before your show. That's totally fine. Some say, hey, no, I want to make sure that I don't mess this thing's front end up. I'm just going to feed it the whole time. It's the way you want to feed it. We're not going to hurt these animals by doing it. We're just really going to try to help continue to burn that down.
I think
it's something that we use every day. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was just gonna comment here on the Sculpt product, and it's something that we use very, very heavily in our barn. And when you start talking about, especially these females getting some chest or and dropping that chest out of them, I'm telling you, when that happens, there just ain't hardly any return. So I think too, another place that we use it in our barn very, very heavily is to keep that chest from dropping out of them, or keeping one from getting too fat, to keep them trimmed, to keep them lean. Them heifers, I don't want to say lean or skinny, but I want to say that we keep them trim and feminine. So I think that is a very, very, very good product. We use a lot of it in our barn. We use it on ones. We don't wait till they get to the point of being, oh man, she's just way too fat, or oh man, her chest is dropping out of her, because you're going to maintain it and help it with Sculpt, but you're not going to, again, it's not magic. Okay. This doesn't just, it just takes the chest out of one. That doesn't work that way. So, we will use it that way. Now, I'm not going to tell you need to go home and put it on every heifer you've got at home just because you listened to Miles and Dave tonight. And you don't want them to get chesty, because you also want them to get bloomy too, and that's where that M&M would come in. But you always want to keep the bloom on them, but you don't want to let that chest drop out of there. But if you got one that's got a little chest or whatever, it just leans them up. It's a very good product. We use a lot of it in our barn. I've used all the products in this line from all over the country, from all of the other companies and makers and everything. This one right here is the one that we feel is the most fault-free and user-friendly. Some of them other products out there that are along the same lines sometimes, and not to bash on them, they get to a point where you think, oh boy, it's really working. And by the time you realize it's working, it works too much or too hard, and it's too harsh. And this right here is the safest. This one here works the same way, but is very fault-free, very consumer friendly. That's why I advise my customers to use this a lot.
Awesome. Couple questions that we've had. Is there a supplement to add dimension to make their butt bigger? I would tell you that we utilize obviously proteins to do that, to just help build some muscle. But I would believe that Dave would agree with this. It's going to be a lot of exercise as well. That's a hard area to really try to promote. A lot of times, we try to buy some with a little bit of hip and a little more stifle quarter area as they're younger. But to really talk about that specific area, that's probably more of an exercise deal. We've talked about that. If you get the chance, Sydney, to go to a few of these other talks and demonstrations that we've had for the cattle. And Dave, maybe you have something else to add there. But as far as trying to get a bigger butt, we're going to really start to exercise those calves more, not just for their structure, but for their muscle integrity as well. Is stretch given as a top dress? And that's a question as well that we get quite a bit. And yes, it is. It is a top dress mix in, however you want to utilize that as well. Getting that there's if there's a question from me personally, I don't see it. Just got that. But so as we talk about those particular products, we've talked about muscle enhancers, and we've talked about protein and enhancing those things, and we've talked about just adding rib and adding dimension and spread, those kinds of things. And we have products that we believe are very, very specific. We don't want to be an additive company, but we have generated additives or supplements and additives, vice versa, whichever way you want to call it, that we believe work rapidly and are cost effective for whenever you need to utilize them. They'll help you. So now we're going to talk about energy, and we're going to talk about cover, just a little bit of some condition things and how we use. And so one of them that I like using from just a standpoint of getting maybe just a little extra cover on their top line is something called Stamina. I love this product from that standpoint. Just adding a little bit more bloom to their top. We're not adding muscle. We're not adding anything like that. We're just adding just maybe a little bit more, just a cover over that muscle, or we're doing that over the rib. I'm going to tell you where I absolutely love Stamina, though. I could talk about this all day long in terms of being an appetite enhancer. Okay, it's a wheat germ oil, and I mean, this is going to help out their hide and that condition of their hide. But as you talk about, whenever I get these calls, and I get them every day, all day long, and hey, I love it. I enjoy talking to everybody, and I know that there's many of you, I can see the names through here. There's many of you that I've talked to over even the last few weeks. Hey, my calf's going off of feed. My calf's doing this. And we'll talk about genetics, and we'll talk about, how much feed do you give them in corn and those kinds of things. It doesn't matter in any of those particular settings, genetics, what kind of feed, how much feed, whatever it may be, how much corn, how much energy that those calves are on at that particular time. Those factors don't seem to matter whenever you add Stamina on top of this feed. 2 pumps of it, and those calves go back to eating the way that they're supposed to. Unbelievable product. And I'm not saying that it works on 100% of them, because I'm sure that you'll have 1 or 2 at some point, and you'll say, well, that Miles lied. This calf didn't go back to eating. But I'll promise you, the calves that we've had the opportunity to feed here the last 3 or 4 years, and the customers that we've helped over many years, this Stamina product is killer for keeping these things on feed. I love it going to shows. I love it in everyday use. It's very cost effective. It takes you 1 or 2 pumps right on top of their feed. And some of the best feeders like a Dave Geyer and these folks across the country are utilizing this to continue to keep those cattle where they're at, even from a condition, but more importantly, keeping them on feed. This is a really, really neat product to do that and also help out their hide.
Good for their hair.
With that, we get lots of questions. Good for their hair. Absolutely. The Stamina is beautiful, beautiful hair coat. And we use this multi-species. So any species, if you have other ones, know that this is used very much the same way. It's great for their hide. It's great for their hair. And Dennis Wilbur used to talk about the fact that you can just see the shine in these things coats whenever you start them on Stamina. And I promise you that you can. So we get lots of questions. What product can we put these things on to add an extra fat, to add an extra cover? And how can we do that? Dave's going to tell you about a product that is one of the most unique products that we have in our entire lineup to do something that you all want to do and not affect their intake and not affect how much that those calves are going to eat per feeding, and not shut them down on feed is what I'm trying to get at. So Dave, if you would tell them about the glucose.
People call in and they say, hey, my calves went off feed, or my calf is not eating as much as they want. The first recommendation I give them is Glue Coat. Glue Coat is a product that speeds up rumen activity. I always use the analogy of oil. And what we got is you take a feeds that we have today, their percentage of fat that's in those feeds is 4+%, and that's the way it is. But the way Glue Coat come about is years ago, everybody was adding vegetable oil, corn oil, some type of oil to their feed because they were doing it to get their calf fat. Well, what you were doing was increasing the level of fat in your feed to the point of over 6%. It's a proven fact that 6%, you will start slowing the rumen down. And the bugs in the rumen that are working, when them things are working and they're going like all get out in there and they're eating and making digesting food, that calf will gain, that calf will do what it's supposed to do. I don't care if it's what it is, they will intake more and they will eat more. But I use the analogy, the bugs in the rumen are like a bird. If you took a spray bottle of motor oil or any kind of oil for that fact, and you sprayed that bird or misted that bird with the spray bottle, you're going to slow that bird down. And you keep spraying that bird, you're going to ground him. And you continue to spray that bird, you will kill him with that oil. And you think about that, that's the truth, because that's what will happen. We do the same thing in the rumen. The calf's rumen's working really good and everything, and we get carried away and we think, oh, we got to have him fatter, so we add more fat. And I hear it all the time. Well, we're adding fat, we're adding fat, we're adding fat. Quite frankly, you may be doing a hindrance by adding too much fat, vegetable oil, whatever the fat is that you're using. You may be hurting yourself and not even know it. I get these calls all the time about this, and come to find out, I just got to ask just a few questions, and I real quick figure out, hey, you're slowing that rumen down. Glucose speeds that rumen up. It's only 3% fat. There's hardly any fat at all, but it's sugars. It's a molasses-based product. They should like it. And some people say, well, if my calf don't like it, well, they don't like any feed then, because there's molasses in every feed. So you got to be careful. The only thing I'll tell you to be careful on is don't get carried away with glucose. And the only reason I say that is because if you put 2 scoops of sugar on your cereal in the morning is one thing, but go put 6 scoops on your cereal in the morning, and you'll probably back off that bowl of cereal. So don't get carried away. Use it as directed. It will speed up rumen activity. You'll see those feed intakes take off, and you'll see it in a very short period of time. It lays on a really good smooth fat on the external of the animal and fills them out very, very good. Product that we use here, very, very highly recommended at our barn in our place.
And we just absolutely love it, because I mean, we see cattle stay on feed relative to going off feed. So we had a couple questions, David, want to answer here just real quick, and you can chime in as well. One of them here was anything for the top of the neck and cresty neck. That is something that we're going to utilize a sculpt to help prevent. Sometimes that will also come with just maturity, and it'll come with genetics, to be real upfront with you. But to try to prevent that area, the top of their neck and a cresty neck look, we're going to utilize the sculpt product. Can Stamina come in a bag of feed? Also, is Stamina like a lotion? So Stamina isn't like a lotion. Won't come in your bag of feed. It'll always be in that jug there. But it is something that we're utilizing basically to help them from the inside out. To help really make that hide and hair coat good. So appreciate that question. Do you have something to help grow hair? Yep. If Dave took his hat off, it doesn't work on humans, but and he could prove that fact, but he does have something that we'll talk about that works really, really good in cattle here in just a minute. So appreciate the hair growth or the hair growth question.
I appreciate you pointing that out too, Miles.
Yeah. Yep. Is Glucoat a multi-species supplement? It is. And I know that Dave can reiterate that time and time again. It's just how it's utilized and what kind of project you're wanting to work it on and how you're wanting to use it.
Actually,
we feed Glucoat the entire project. Dave, go ahead.
Actually, we're showing the cattle Glucoat here because this is more of a cattle section. But yes, there is a small animal Glucoat that is more concentrated. So yes, the answer is yes, multi-species.
Dave, what about do you feed Glucoat the entire project? So basically, what Steven's asking here is, do you start whenever you get them home on Glucoat and then finish them on it, or when are you? Dave Geyer and family utilizing Glucoat the most?
We're using it. We're using it when we get those cattle in the fall, and all the way through. Now, is it a necessity right there at that 800, 700 pound range? No, it's not a necessity. But the truth be known is, anytime you're feeding it, you're keeping that rumen going. And they're going to be intaking feed, and you get them started off to the right track, they'll continue to stay on the right track. So yes, it's something that we feed a lot of. We do, and actually we feed it a lot to our heifers. You might not think that this would be good for heifers, but we feed a lot of it to our heifers, and the reason being is it doesn't add that chest and that pin fat and that cod fat and that udder, to them like you would see in those females. So that is one reason we like it so well when it comes right down to those females. And when we're holding one, whether it be a heifer or a steer, we're feeding it at high levels there too, because they're holding their shape and continuing to fill out. So A very, very good product. We use pretty near all the way through.
Dave says they've used it on heifers. I want to tell you, they had the champion or the supreme heifer this year at the Illinois State Fair, and they had it at the Simmental Junior Nationals. And I heard time and time again that she was ripe and ready at Simmental Junior Nationals, and she wouldn't be ready come Illinois State Fair. Well, one thing is obvious management practices helped her get there, but the other thing is a product like Glue Coat to continue to add that smooth condition and keep that heifer on feed, and use and sculpt to keep her cleaned up front, and those types of things, and that fresh feminine look got her all the way to a backdrop, and one of the very important backdrops for his family. And so we got a couple other questions here. So we did have a question: when changing from accelerator to cruiser or steers, stopped cleaning it up every feeding. Sometimes it is. I mean, they start to maybe enjoy one product and it has maybe a little extra corn, or maybe another product has a little extra fiber and they liked it, and sometimes they don't like it and they just don't eat it quite as much. But to help promote more intake, we use a Glue Coat or a Stamina on top of that feed as a top dress. As we continue to move on, miscellaneous, but very, very important: appetite enhancers, hair growth, and show prep. The little things. Accent is something that we actually utilize in all of our feeds. It's in our NutriBase that we make feeds with as well, at any mill that makes our Show-Rite feeds. And then we use it in our pink bag as well. It's got a specific product in there called AO. It's just, honestly, what you need to know about it is it's going to enhance eating, gut health, and we use it from start to finish. Competitive products like it, but they seem to absolutely just want this. You open that bucket of Accent, and I don't remember, Dave, if you were at the World Pork Expo, because this is well, I know you were, but at the Pork Expo, whenever we brought Accent, the buckets out that first year, because it is a multi-species product, you open that bucket and there's just this incredible smell, like you want to eat it yourself. And those cattle get just absolutely to loving that stuff. And so we like to give this about a half a pound, 3/4 of a pound of feeding, just to keep, even some are just even to 1/4 of a pound, just to keep those cattle continuing to want to eat. And whenever you're trying to promote more feed and those types of things, to try to use a product to keep them on there and eating appropriately and enhance that, we use Accent. We'll go here in just a minute. Accent, that's a good question, Stacy. Thank you. Is Accent a pellet or a powder? It's actually a pellet. So is Accent universal or different versions per species? It is universal. Patricia, appreciate that question. Accent is universal. So you can use that same bucket. If you're feeding it to your calf and you've got some lambs and goats or pigs on the other side of the barn, you can feed it to them too. Secosorb is a product that we're actually utilizing, and I know Dave's heard a lot about it as well. We're utilizing it under their bedding, using it in the cooler. If some of you have that cooler and you get that distinct ammonia smell, or you get that wet kind of a feel to the floor, the moisture on the floor, and you're trying to help decrease that and decrease wet bedding, we actually put the Secosorb down, and then we put that on top of their bedding. So this is something that is not a feed additive. This is an additive to help out maybe some hair, help them out in the cooler, help that ammonia smell, and just gather that up. The Secosorb is really going to be a drying agent, is what it is. I always talk about it like an oil spill at the local wrenching shop. And they put that lime down on top of there, and or whatever it may be, and they push that together, and it really helps soak all that up. That's what Secosorb does. We use it a lot underneath the bedding, and that's a multi-species thing as well, that we like to utilize, especially in these coolers or under bedding that you're using. Maybe you have misters on at home. Some of these cattle trying to continue, you don't utilize the cooler. You're just a hard work, and trying to just gain hair from that mister or whatever, this is something that's good underneath that bedding to help keep that dry, so you don't have any issues there. When do you start bedding it? Stacy asked on the Secosorb. We start right whenever they get home, if we're going to start putting them inside or anytime. And then we darn sure every time we clean the cooler out, we're putting this on underneath the bedding pretty thick whenever we do that. So the next one, and I gave Dave, I tried to throw out the funny there earlier, and those of you that are watching know that Dave and I could go rounds all day long. But we do have something, and many of you have asked this question, is there anything for hair growth? And this is a product in itself that I think is killer. We promote it very much. I mean, my friends and I promote it to every one of our customers, and Dave's going to tell you exactly why, how this product works, and just how good it is. So Dave, if you would.
Hide and hair is like Miles said, it's a must. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Hide and hair is something that is a blend of kelp and seaweed meals and all the essentials for good hide and good hair. It also carries the same antioxidants that's in hide and hair would be the same antioxidants that is in Rogaine. What happens is we get peaks and valleys. And whenever if I'm going to a show somewhere and I find something that I would like to purchase, one of the questions I always ask is have they been on a melatonin product? If they tell me yes, I do know, and I will probably back off of buying that one. And when I'm talking about buying one, it's probably later. They're probably 1,200 plus pounds at this time. He was probably a small one for a state fair, or she was a small one or a later maturing one that I want to take on for the future. Here's my point. If you've got one that's been on a melatonin product for a long period of time, in that 90 to 120 days, they will shuck their hair out and they will peak out. And then they start shucking out. And when they shuck out, there's not this, that second chance of regrowing that hair is just not there. It just doesn't come. So this product here is one that levels out the curve of the hair. It gets rid of the peaks and valleys. It's a more even kill. It's a lot more user friendly from a standpoint of having that one that shucks his hair out and you wonder what in the world just happened. You're not going to have that as much with this. It's more consistently for longer periods of time. I do suggest you use it for 90 to 120 days. I like the 120 day mark. That's what we do here at our place. We haven't had any melatonin, and people always ask me, well, you're feeding melatonin too because we've seen your cattle. No, we haven't had any in our place for 25 years, to be honest with you. And trust me, we were one of the first ones many years ago. I may be exaggerating at 25 because it's probably been more than 20 years, but I guarantee you 30 plus years ago, we were using melatonin when no one knew what melatonin was. So anyway, my point being is we don't do it anymore. We can concentrate on using this. This is what helps us out. If you go to a show, you see our livestock there and you think, daggone, them things right there are pretty good haired or have kept hair. We go on to Louisville, Kansas City, and they think, daggone, that heifer, she still got nice hair. Our heifer this year in Louisville, she had just as nice hair in Louisville as maybe honestly better in Louisville than she did at State Fair time. And she had been on hide and hair the whole time. Very, very good product.
Dave, if you don't mind me asking here, and just for those that are listening, the 90 days or the 120 days, why just 120 days? And are you feeding this 120 days right in the middle of the project? Are you feeding it at the start? Are you feeding it to the finish of the project? What is the 90 to 120 days?
That's a very good question, because what it brings up is how long does it take to get a calf ready for its endpoint, whether it's a heifer, steer, whatever. And it takes 120 days, 90 to 120 days to get one ready for its endpoint. So my point being is we go, if your ultimate goal, we all have goals. Your goal may be a county fair, it may be a junior nationals, it may be a state fair, it may be something even larger than that. I don't know. You got guys set your own goals, and I'm a very big guy in setting goals. So you set your own goals, and whatever that goal is, you just get on the calendar and you back up 120 days, and you know that 90 to 120 days from that goal, that's when you need to get started. That's when you not just get started on hide and hair. That's when you need to put your game face on and get ready to roll, because it's time. It's go time. So that's why I say that. You know, some people say, "Are you going to see a difference in 45 days?" Oh, you might, but I'm not going to sit here and promise you that. And there again, this is not a miracle. This ain't magic. It ain't a chia pet. I mean, this here is still something with management works. But I will tell you that sometimes you'll say, I might be working at 45, 60 days. You're thinking, man, that's starting to come. 90 days is when you really get the effect of the hide and hair. And that's why I always like that 90 to 120 days.
Cool. So, I mean, Dave did just describe, I mean, you know, and that's what I told you whenever we started. We're going to be honest with you and how these products work. I know that some of you are sitting saying, well, hey, my show's the 1st of July and I'm not, you know, I'm less than 120 days away. Hey, Dave said something in there that I think is very important. And this is even outside of the supplements, but hide and hair is not a miracle additive supplement. This is not something that's like going to make your chia pet all of a sudden grow. This is something that you have to utilize. You're not going to walk out to a feedlot and feed this to a bunch of calves and then just see them automatically just have all this hair all over them. This is something that you got to put a little elbow grease in there too, but that's every single product. Don't let them guys fool you. This is every product. That's right. You have to put some elbow grease into it. But this product right here is unique because of the no melatonin and how long they keep their hair. Yeah. So we have a couple questions here, Dave. How much hide and hair are you feeding? We talked about, you know, for how long. You're going to be able to get on that bucket, and I believe it tells you the exact instructions, correct?
It's 3/4 of a cup per day.
That you do feed it.
It's 3/4 of a cup per head per day.
Is it a cup in the?
Yep.
Cup is in the bucket.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Will hide and hair work well if you don't have a cooler or dark stall to lock them in daily? That's a good question. Wyatt asked it, Dave, would hide and hair work if he doesn't have a cooler?
Absolutely. Anything, all this kind of stuff that we're telling you, these are tools, and this is a very, very good tool for you to put in there. So yeah, I mean, it don't take a cooler to win, and I can give you plenty of examples of it, Wyatt, over my 30 some years of doing this, or 30 years of doing this. There's many, many times and cases and stories I can tell you. You don't have to have that cooler. You use the right tools, and like Miles said, you little elbow grease will go a long way. So you bet. Rock on.
Absolutely. I'll get into a couple questions in just a minute here that a few of you have asked that I'll kind of end on, but as we go through here. So I'm going to tell you just quickly here about a few of these products that we have that are absolutely unique in their own right, and we've got to be able to utilize them from different sectors of different industries, and how we brought them together and realize that they work so well. I can tell you right now that if you've been to a cattle junior national and you've needed the product Swell about 3 hours before you needed a show, you're too late, because this product goes fast. At every one of these national shows, it seems that we always get a call, hey, how do we get more Swell? Where can we get it? We need several buckets of it. And so that's how we know that it works.
Number one, ask about product.
Some of the very most successful. Absolutely, is this Swell. And it's a powder. You know, we get questions, all different kinds of questions, but what we see is that it adds a tremendous amount of body and fill. You know, we get a lot of, okay, is this just for their top? You know, I used it. It seemed like they got really big body, but it doesn't maybe seem like it worked on their top. Give them a little bit. It'll start to work up towards their top. But if you've got that steer that's heavyweight going into your show, and you need to pull them off a feed, or any species that's heavyweight, you got to pull them off a feed, and you need that product that you can utilize where they won't have to get a bunch of water in them. They don't have to get a bunch of feed in them, but they look full and fresh. so you can make it back across the scales comfortably, this is that product for you. If you're taking off towards the heifer ring and you're sitting there and you're thinking, boy, in 3 days, I've got to show this heifer and I need her to continue to get body expansion to her rib and just be setting herself apart from that standpoint, swell is something that you can utilize. This isn't going to take one of these flatline, skinny flanked, high flank cattle and make them all of a sudden appear that they have this big belly. This is something that is going to more rapidly generate the body that they once had, the physical feel that they once had, and it will give them just even that little bit of extra. It bulks them up. It does it fast. And these cattle, we're feeding it. Basically, if I have a show on Saturday, I'll feed Thursday night, Friday, Friday morning, Friday night, and then Saturday morning again. We feed it, we drench it, we put it in the water. Let me tell you, I'm going to be straight up and honest here. One of the most asked questions outside of where do we get swell is how do we use it? I get folks that say, nope, my cattle eat it fine. Some folks say, nope, they won't eat it at all. I get folks that say they won't drink it. Some say that they will drink it. You just get it in them, and I promise you, you're going to see a big result. How we get it in them is we try to utilize a drench if we can, if it's allowed by your show. But what I also like to do is feed this to them. It's a powder. It can make a little bit of a powdery looking mess, and sometimes them cattle don't want that all over their feed. I put a handful of feed down, or 2 handfuls. I put the swell amount that I need on top of that feed, and I give that 2 pumps of stamina right on top of the swell, and I promise you they'll gobble it up. I watch every one of them do it. We've done it to several cattle over the last 2-3 years, and I know that the customers that I help out with this product have utilized it that way. Hey, and some still say, no, I can't get them to eat it, but I can get them to drink it. Do whatever you need to. It's legal to get this product in them, because that is something that you'll want. This is going to take you a little extra further than the rest of the competition whenever it comes time. Heavy, wanting to add more physical fill and expansion, swell's awesome. Proven time after time. I guarantee you that this product's probably honestly more secretly used by the winners across the country than ever would you walk up and they say that they used it, because they don't want to let you know the big advantage that they had.
Go over one more time.
Oh, sorry.
Go over one more time, Miles, how you would feed it. Aaron asked it on here, and we can answer it, but I think I don't know that you made it very clear of how you would feed that to Thursday, Friday, whatever, like you given the example.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever we're utilizing the swell, and I say I feed it Thursday night, feed it Friday morning, feed it Friday night, and Saturday morning, we're usually utilizing 8 to 12 ounces per. There's a 4-ounce scoop in there, or a 4-ounce little cup. We're feeding about 8 ounces per feeding whenever we do that. Some go up to 12, some go down to 4, but we're feeding 8 ounces. We do that Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning, because Saturday is our show. So we're trying to get that in them at least 3 to 4 times before that show happens. Whenever I'm putting that feed down, I don't give them a full feeding, because I want them to be hungry so that they do consume this. I'll put a handful or 2 of feed in that feeder. I'll put a couple pumps of stamina on top of the swell that I just put in there, put it in front of that calf. And if they're hungry, like they always are, those calves will gobble that down real quick and they'll go. If you put it in there and they're a calf that doesn't like to eat swell, they'll just push around it and then they'll eat the rest of that feed. So we're just trying to make sure that they're hungry, there's a little less feed in there, and that we can get that into their system. Wyatt asked if there's no drenching allowed for the Saturday. So like I said, yes, you can start feeding it, Wyatt. That is something. Dave, we have a question on the hide and hair. Does the hide and hair have to stay cold? No. As far as the bucket goes, I can answer this. As far as the bucket goes, you don't want it to sit outside. It doesn't have to be cold weather outside. This is something that you're going to utilize with a little elbow grease to continue that hair growth in the summer whenever it's a little harder to get some hair on them. So that's how we're utilizing Swell, and hopefully that answers some questions there. And if you have any more questions about Swell, please ask. But I promise you that this is something that will take you to that next level. Exhale is a product that we're utilizing a lot. Honestly, for anybody that's on here, even right at the start, whenever we're in the picture in some of these calves for sales, we're using Exhale to get them out there and keep these cattle breathing and not get them. It's so hot whenever we're doing it in the fall, late summer, picturing some of these calves. But what I want you to think about is how hot it is then, and just how hot it is whenever you go into June or July. We utilize this Exhale when we're breaking them. We're utilizing it right before we get ready to go in the show ring. The way that we're trying to use Exhale, was originally designed for performance horses and racing horses. I promise you, if you get a whiff of this stuff, it'll open your lungs up and you'll breathe better. You have a way deeper breath. We use it in every species that we have. Why I like this is whenever you get into the summer and it's super hot, those cattle, whenever you send them to the ring, boy, they look good. They look so good. And I know Dave can attest to this. And you get them out in the ring, and then the more time that judge walks around and it's a close pair, boy, he's breaking them down. And then your calf starts to break at his shoulder, and he starts to open his shoulder up, and that old tongue comes out, and he's starting to pant. He's done some things there, okay? He's obviously not as cool as he was underneath that fan, but that calf's in a stressful situation right then, just like you are. Just like whenever you're sitting outside the ring, hey, you're hot too, but you're not sweating and you're not panting like you are whenever you go in the ring. Nerves are high. Nerves get high. Oxygen level starts to lower. You don't breathe. You have to take deep breaths. That's what these cattle are doing. But once we're sitting in the ring with Exhale, we're not seeing those issues anymore. We're seeing these cattle continue to stay together better because of their breathing process utilizing Exhale. I believe every calf that you show needs it. Yep, go ahead, Dave.
No, go ahead. Finish your statement. Every calf needs it.
No,
You're
yeah,
right.
I just believe yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll add something here with Exhale. And we talked about hide and hair, and hide and hair lowers the body temperature down, which takes them to the ring to try to keep them from being in that scenario that Miles just said. That hide and hair is good there. You put Exhale before you go to the ring, which we combo that together like that so they can breathe and take in oxygen. Those two combination of taking one to the ring and when it's hot, I'll promise you it is a great combination going, because daggone, it gets hot. And when you're a fat guy like me, you breathe hard.
Absolutely. So we've gone through our products, and Dave and I could sit here and we could just talk about them all night long and would enjoy to, but we know that you folks wouldn't want to hear us talk all night long. So we've tried to keep it relatively simple. We tried to keep it relatively brief, but most importantly, we've tried to tell you exactly how these products work. We don't have three products that do the same thing. We have one specific product that works. We have been to the point to where we've had 3 or 4 different products. We trial and error them, not just ourselves, not just Dave or I. These are products that go across the country, multiple feeders. How we can get them utilized that's the way that we do it. And we get products that work for multiple different types and kinds and pack it into one bucket, one bag, one tube, like you see here, one tub. And we are very firm believers in every one of these things. There's not anything on here. And I've always said, I don't use an additive and I don't promote an additive or supplement unless it's needed. There's not anything on here that at some point you may need or may not need. And we'll tell you. How we tell you is we'll give you our phone numbers here in just a minute. How can some of these be purchased? Obviously, they can be purchased through our Show-Rite.com, www.Show-Rite.com. You can get on there and find these supplements and purchase from there. Talk to your dealers. Get on there and get a hold of your dealers. Talk to them whenever you get the opportunity to. And we will have the chance to get those to you. your dealers. They'll talk to us. They'll talk to where they get their feed, all those types of things. They can get those for you. If you need it right away, if it's not there, utilize Show-Rite.com, and we can get those particular products to you. Frequently asked questions, and I just put them on here, and we'll go through them just very briefly. The supplements is grass hay and additive. We don't sell grass hay in a bag or a bucket or anything, but myself and Dave would tell you it's something that's needed every day.
Necessity.
It's not, maybe an added. It's not an additive or supplement. It's a necessity. You're darn sure right. When do I start supplements? We've talked about that. I want to add body condition. What supplement should I feed? We've talked about those. That's going to really depend on your calf. How do I get more flank? Also going to depend on your calf and genetics. Can I get more, or can I feed more than one supplement at a time? Absolutely you can. Let's just not overdo it. So as we get into here, tonight we did have some winners. And so sometimes we tell you and sometimes we don't, because we want to make sure that you're on your toes, but we have some winners for tonight. Dave didn't even know this, or he probably put his name in the hat a few times.
Did I win?
Those of you that ask questions, you didn't win anything, Dave. So you just have to sit back and try next week. Those of you that ask questions tonight, you were put into a hat and to be drawn for a prize for Show-Rite. And I know that some of you have listened to other Show-Rite webinars, and so you knew about this. And so anyway, tonight, to be able to get a pair of wash pants, I do believe. Yep, winners get their wash pants there. Leave it the Show-Rite logo on them. Wyatt Wilson and Stacy Miller. So what you need to do is go to our Show-Rite Facebook page and message on there, or you could text Mari Palacio. Mari, her phone number is on Show-Rite.com. You could even just send her a text and say, hey, I won, and she'll get you set up right away with all your sizes and everything like that and get your address. So, Dave, I sure appreciate you coming through again tonight and being able to talk about products with me and the additive section, the supplement section of Show-Rite we believe in and Dave believes in. And Dave's a longtime feeder of Show-Rite and a longtime just cattle feeder in general. And so it's always good to have Dave's 2 cents and get him involved. And we sure appreciate each one of you that have logged on tonight. As we get in here, we talk about week 6 of Stock Show Classroom. Don't be late for class. Make sure that if you have the chance, if you want to go back and listen to anything of what we had in the last few weeks of our Stock Show Classroom, you can do that by going to the link below, or go on to our Facebook page, ask the question of how you can get to it. They'll be able to help you out from there. Next week is our small species. So if you have some rabbits and chickens, get on there, and Dr. Ed is going to get to be involved, and he's going to really a neat, unique guy, and he'll be able to tell you about those particular species in the small species section of our Show-Rite program. And we'll talk about livestock judging. 2 sessions with 2019 and 2020 Junior College Judging Livestock Coach of the Year, Connor Newsom, will be with us to talk about that. So, folks, we sure appreciate you, and we appreciate the absolute opportunity that you give us every day to be a part of our program. And if you have any questions, contact us here. My number, Miles' number, is 618-420-9413. And Dave, if you'd like to give your number, if you would like to.
Are you kidding me?
Right quick. And
No, I'm just no, I can. I'm phone accessible for any questions for any of the youth. 812-243-1676, and always remember, stay focused, get your goals, keep your eye on the goal. And I don't think you can go wrong. You're dealing with a great team right here in this Show-Rite team, and they'll guide you in the right direction.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave, and thanks everybody for joining in tonight. We sure appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.